So, who's excited to be here at the Talking Cardboard talking about board games? Great. So, thank you for everyone that's in the audience today. My name is Nick, and I'm part of a group called Talking Cardboard. I'll touch on us more in depth here shortly. First, I just want to give a round of thank yous, namely to Odyssey-Lahaina for allowing Talking Cardboard to be present here at this convention. I know a lot of effort, time, energy, blood, sweat, tears, etc. goes into planning a convention. And this is the first time I've ever been at Odyssey-Lahaina. Hopefully everyone here agrees it's a really well-done convention. Hopefully everyone's had a good time so far, and hopefully everyone's going to have a better time, or say that maybe we have a better time in an hour from now. So thank you for the convention, and Joe, the president, who helped organize this panel with me. And also big thanks to the panelists we have here up front. They're donating their time, energy, blood, sweat, and tears, etc. to be here today. And I appreciate them working with me over, there you go, maybe it was not close enough. I appreciate them working with me over the last several months via email and Facebook chats to be present here today for all of you guys. I mean, this is to everyone's benefit that's attending, because these are industry experts who know a lot about board games, and I'm excited to have them here. So a round of applause for the panelists, everyone. Okay, and actually, with that said, I do want to give a brief rundown of the panelists, and they'll give more in-depth introduction here shortly. But we have Jim Cartwright from Fantasy Flight, thank you, Jim. Dan Molson from Source Comics and Games. Andrew Navarro from Earthborne Games. Adam Rayberg from Adam's Apple Games, and then Jacob Thole, from Games by James. So thanks again for the panelists being here today. Now, before I go any further, I don't want to somber the mood too much here, but a few months ago, my wife and I were in this state of Hawaii, specifically in Maui, and we were actually there a year ago for our honeymoon, or about a year ago, and then we came back for our baby. And fortunate baby has been born since, and is back in the audience, and is enjoying this panel as much as you guys. So, but unfortunately, while we were there, I got to visit this amazing game store called Game Odyssey. It was not there when we first went for our honeymoon over a year ago, and when we came back, I was so surprised. Like, oh my gosh, there's this game store here. I mean, because whenever I go any place, the first thing I type in once I get into our hotel is board games in Google Maps to see where the local board game stores. I think that's what everyone does, right? When they get to someplace exotic, they type in board games on their phone. So this came up, and I was like, wait, this was definitely not here, because I know where board game stores are located. This was not here. Well, sadly, of course, as shown on the picture on the slide, the store was completely destroyed by the Lahaina fires. They do have a GoFundMe with the QR code linked here. So if you feel that that's something you want to support, you are all encouraged to do so. And the other thing that's kind of sombering is I have to be some of the last footage taken of that store, just to give you some context of what that looks like, what the store looked like, and why this was such a fan of that location. So here is a brief clip of what Game Odyssey was like.
Now, you better believe a board gamer's first stop at any destination is the local game store, and that's exactly what I did. I headed out to Game Odyssey in Lahaina, Maui. Now, I have to say, I was very impressed with the game selection in the store, given its amount of shelf space, and I also was extremely impressed with the aesthetic of the store. It really felt like a Maui-themed board game store. Definitely check it out if you're ever in Maui, and of course I had to walk away with a couple purchases, including the Twilight Imperium Roll and Write game, and then this 2-player capstone game called Beer and Bread.
Listening to that, I feel like the least I can do is someone that talks about board games, talk about these other aspects of the hobby too. So let's get back into the rest of the show here. and talk more about Talking Cardboard. So we are a content creation group that's based here locally in the Twin Cities area. And we started on YouTube a few years ago and now are trying to transition into the other platforms such as podcasting, TikToks, Discord group, X, Twitter, whatever it is now, and then Kick. And I want to publish. I don't think I have a follower yet on our Kick stream. So any of you can be the very first Kick follower of the Talking Cardboards, and you can, on your deathbed, you can say, oh my God, I can't believe I was the first one to follow Talking Cardboard on Kick. So, but our goal is really to normalize this hobby. I think we all agree on this panel that there's too many people out there that have no idea that there's more games than Monopoly and Life and Yahtzee. And I think that there's no reason why that should be. I think that, you see so much attention here at TiddlyCon on video games, and there's nothing wrong with video games. I grew up on a Sega Genesis and remember playing Sonic for my very first time when I was 5. And it got me into this hobby, but I think that board gaming should be just as popular as video games. So we're hoping, through our content, we can get more people excited about board games. So with that said, finally, the very first question now for the panelists, as they've been waiting so anxiously over here. Easy softball question: name, role in your current organization, and then a key moment, board game, or experience in your lifetime that drove your passion to pursue the board gaming hobby or career. And we'll start with Andrew and go down the road.
Hello. I'm Andrew Navarro. I'm the founder and creative director of Earthborne Games. I think there's been a lot of key moments in my life that have kind of pushed me in this direction. I mean, honestly, the moment that babies actually think about his career was just getting a job at FFG. Fantasy Flight Games. I don't think I'd ever even considered really as a career prior to that. But I did have aspirations when I was younger to be an illustrator. And when I first started getting into the hobby, in the 90s, was when I was playing a lot of Blood Bowl and buying Whiteboard magazine and painting miniatures very poorly. But in those magazines, there were a lot of these really cool ink drawings that I found really inspiring. So seeing those drawings and then comparing it to my skills, I was like, I think I can do that. So I think that was the thing that really started getting me thinking, but I didn't really think it was real, I think, until I actually landed in the building.
My name is Jacob. I oversee buying for Games by James, the stores in the Twin Cities and St. Cloud and Eau Claire. I have just loved board games my entire life. My best memories of my childhood are playing card games with my grandma, playing cribbage and Scrabble with my dad, putting jigsaw puzzles together with my mom. Games are just amazing, and it's just such a great way to interact with people of different ages, of different ideas, of different groups, and just have a really good time together.
Hi, I'm Jim Cartwright. I'm the Vice President of Strategy for Fantasy Flight Games. For me, board games have been a lifelong hobby, similarly. Right? I think if I could draw it to one moment, I remember in the late 80s, I'll quit dating myself here, in the late 80s, when the game Hero Quest came out. I remember playing Hero Quest, and it was cool to play the campaign, right? But there was that at the back of the book, there was the photocopy here to here's a map, here's all the components, you could build your own. And it was that moment where it was this is awesome. I could create stories for my friends, for my family. I'm the oldest of 8, so there was no shortage of people to run through my dungeons as a child. So that by far, I think, is what, it was that moment, a bunch after, and a long period where I didn't think about board gaming as anything more than just a hobby until I got my first job at Fantasy Flight as a designer under Andrew Navarro at the studio. So this is a fantastic hobby, and it's so great to see people excited to come and do it.
I'm Adam. I am the founder of Adam's Apple Games, a small indie studio in the Twin Cities. My first glance at board games, we played them as a kid, like really, young, childish games. But then my parents kind of retired relatively early, and they said this like, there's a cool farming game you gotta try. So they brought this game out. Their friends gave it to them. It was Carcassonne, and we just became a very cutthroat Carcassonne family. So that's kind of how I got back into it. And it really was a nice burden because I'd been a video gamer my whole life, so really got to reconnect with the tabletop, and I fell in love.
Sweet. My name is Dan. I am one of the floor managers at the Source Comics and Games. I wear also a couple of different hats. I also do event coordination. I do miniatures. I do magic. I do a bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff like building our entire staff schedule, which is always fun. And my kind of start with gaming is started more miniatures with Warhammer. I just kept going to the local hobby shop playing a little bit of card games here and there, that kind of stuff, then almost immediately fell in love as soon as I saw minis in the case of the store that were painted, looked all cool, and my imagination just ran wild, and then it just kind of been a rabbit hole from there.
Great. Well, thanks guys for that first question. So we'll move on to question 2. What is a favorite board game of yours? And I worded this intentionally because I know I get this question all the time. What's your favorite board game? You have 400. You must have a favorite. And it's like, no, if I played half of them, maybe, if I finally played them all, maybe. But also, let's timestamp this. So, unless one thing immediately comes to mind, it can be a game that you've most recently been playing, because I'm sure it changes maybe over the years. So, with that said, we'll start with Andrew again and go down the road.
Well, so you changing this question from what was our thing makes it, I think, almost harder. Because it's true, it's like having a game, like different games for different moments, different people, like different times of your life. But I was thinking about this, I think, just because I played it again recently, Twilight Imperium 4th edition is way up there for me. It's something that it's one of those games that if you've played it, it's such an amazing experience. It has so much role-playing involved in role-playing games. I would probably say D&D if it wasn't not a board game. But it's just so rich, so deep, and it takes forever, but every moment just flies by. And every time I've ever played, it comes down to the last minute, and you always feel like you're in that game, and I love that too. Such a good time. I highly recommend it. Probably.
My game group probably has played Earthborne, the card game, more than any other game. I do not care whatsoever about theme in games, but they love it. For me, the game is just so amazing because it's taking chances. Do you risk drawing another card? How do you construct your deck? And it's just a mathematical mastermind, but it has plenty of theme for the rest of the game group to enjoy. I also really like For Humors from Adam's Apple Games as well too, which is a gorgeous game with a theme I do find really charming.
At the expense of sounding like I'm promoting something for my own company, I will say that my favorite game of all time, and anyone who knows me will know that this is absolutely true and has been so since well before I started at the company, is Star Wars Imperial Assault. That game, it's not a surprise as a Hero Quest fan or anything else, but there's something about all of the elements of that game, all the things that you can do with it, the way you can approach it for the group that you're playing, right? I started playing that game in alpha when I was outside the company with a friend group. We literally played every Wednesday until the week I left for this job. And I moved from Chicago. So it's something that we played it where it was, hey, the 1v many side is, the Imperial player is very much just being a DM, right? We want to make sure the experience is fun for everyone, everyone's having a good time, we're telling a good story. I've also been on the other side of that game where it's like, no, this is super cutthroat, and you have to work as a group together to defeat a player who is very skilled and or trying to win. You also have skirmish. You have so many different ways to play that game, I would literally pick that game up at any time and play it with anyone everywhere. So without question.
For me, I'm going to go a double here, a double answer. So the game in the mind, it's a game that I bring with me in my backpack wherever I go, and it's the same set of cards you can play both of them with, essentially. But you can bring them out with like really any group, and there's something just kind of so out of body about the mind where you're all trying to determine what order your cards go in. Well, you're not talking, you're not reacting to each other. It's just like that psychic link up that you have.
One of them, it's kind of, might somewhat be defined as an RPG-ish. It was brought to us as a boxed game, but it's a game called Raccoon Sky Pirates. And it labels itself as a game for 3 to 6 raccoons. And the only description on the original box we got just said, flying an airship takes coordination and skill. Unfortunately, you're a bunch of raccoons. And so basically you just go through and you make a bunch of choices on how you want to build your airship as a group, and then it has some elements where you're going through stages of the game, basically going through a suburban neighborhood, kind of moving. And the only part that makes it kind of RPG is you're describing how you're doing a step as you're doing it, but it's kind of just following flow charts and making choices. But you're just a bunch of raccoons and it's kind of short and it's great.
Great. Thanks, guys. 3 FFG titles in that. Sounds just what I heard. So, all right. So, next question is just for the publishers. When publishing a new board game, what are certain aspects of the game that come to mind that you want to make sure are done well? Artwork, components, mechanics, rules, theme, but all the above is not allowed. So we'll mix it up and we'll start with Adam and then go down to Jim and then Andrew.
Sure. So I think for me, my kind of shtick as a publisher is I'm a components guy, I'm a table presence guy, so it's really got to scream to me, in a way that hasn't been done, hasn't been seen, and gets me excited. When someone's walking through the hall or through the cafe, if they're not looking at the game on the table, it's not really a consideration for me to even publish that thing. It's got to be amazing to look at. Whether it's the art that brings it to life, but mostly it's just a wild, weird component that you've never seen before, and it hopefully amazes you when it gets into your game.
So I'm going to, I won't say it's all of the above, but what I will say is that from my perspective, mechanics by themselves, not enough. Visuals by themselves, not enough. Theme by itself, not enough. Those 3 components together, that to me is what kind of ties everything. We have plenty of designs that before they ever see a graphic designer or before they ever see an artist have, it could be the greatest design in the world and no one would play it. It is absolutely a collaboration of those 3 organisms inside the system of game design that I think is super, super important. So I know that I didn't say all of the above, but I did use multiples.
I think, for me, the most important thing in any game, I think, is heart. It's the energy that you put into it. I think that regardless of what the game looks like, if the mechanics aren't super clean, it doesn't really matter if you can feel the designer or the vision holder's intent when you play that game, and then it resonates with you. I feel like that's the thing that can be missing when, the art's there, it looks amazing, it's super shiny, people's eyes just light up when they see it, and you play it, it might feel a little bit dead. But I think all the games that I truly, truly love all originated with a person with a really awesome idea who made it come to life. And for me, that's the most important thing is what you put into it, whatever that may be.
Good answers, everyone. So now we'll do a question for the FLGS stands for Friendly Local Game Stores, for those of you that have not seen that acronym before. But we'll do the game stores next, starting with Dan for the source, and then we'll do Jacob for Games by James. Oh, I didn't ask the question, sorry. I didn't do a practice run if you guys can't tell. So what do you feel is one of the most critical aspects of running a successful board game store? How do you feel a physical store is able to compete with online retailers? And do you think the strategy of how to sell board games in a physical store has changed over the years? Now, Dan can go. Then Jacob.
I think one of the biggest things is engagement. Getting in touch with the people in your store, figuring out what really catches their eye. Having your staff knowledgeable and passionate about stuff. I mean, working a board game in a store in and of itself is pretty easy to just find people that are going to absolutely love everything about it and care about it, and everyone will kind of have their favorites. But then finding engagement, finding community, also empowering community members. Like a lot of our successful game night stuff is largely run by volunteers and doing things that you can compensate them for their time, but also like make sure they have the tools to be happy and have fun. One of my favorite examples recently is we had the guys running our Middle Earth strategy battle game group, the Lord of the Rings miniatures game, which for a lot of stores I keep hearing like, how did you get that running? And it's like, we have one guy and his name is Russ, and he really cares, and then it really just pushes other people to care and enjoy it and be happy about it.
So when I moved to Minnesota in 2002, Games by James was my first job in Minnesota. And nothing has changed about Games by James when I started in 2002 and then when I came back to the company in 2013. Customer service is absolutely the most important aspect. After that, having a place that is welcoming for everyone is the biggest challenge. But no matter what, whoever comes into our store, they need to feel welcome. And they are coming into our store because they would like to get something that's going to make them very happy. We sell fun, so it's the easiest job in the world. We just need to get to know that customer and know what they need to have a good time with their friends and family, or if they're doing a solo game or whatever they're doing, we are just helping them find the best way to do that. Nothing has changed in the last 20 years. Even with online game stores, even with Amazon, no matter what, people that are coming to our store are looking for someone to help them find that perfect thing.
Thanks, guys. So next is a question for FFG, another acronym for everyone. This is Fantasy Flight Games. It was for Jim. So Jim, a few years ago, Fantasy Flight Games was acquired by Asmodee, a large board game company based in France. What would you say is one of the most positive consequences of this acquisition from your standpoint for FFG?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think first and foremost, right, Asmodee is a global company, and it gives us the ability to use global resources and to have the global reach that is afforded. We have distribution partners all over the globe. We have the ability to work with studios over there as well for kind of content sharing and or like resource sharing. A great example for Star Wars Unlimited, we're working directly with the German studio GameGen for all of our accessories that work with that. That was a collaboration. We worked together with them. We were on calls with Germany talking about how to make those products work with the game that we're making. And so it's those kinds of relationships and those kinds of interactions that really, I think, highlight the benefits of being part of the Asmodee Group.
Great, thanks, Jim. All right, so next is for Earthborne Games. Some may say there are already too many board game publishing companies out there right now.
Who says that?
Well, if you listen to Board Game Insider, Stephen Bonacore, Found Board Games, oh yeah, don't start a publishing company for board games. There's too many out there. So you can take this up with Stephen Bonacore. What gave you? That's.
Yeah, he laughs.
I know. He's like deuces. Don't become a publisher, but I'm not playing more either. Anyway, I could go on about that as you can see. What gave you the confidence you could be successful starting your own company? What are things you think will help you stand out from the crowd?
Well, I worked for a long time at Fantasy Flight Games. I was part of the senior decision-making group at that publisher for many years, and gained a lot of experience. Really learning with some smartest people in the industry, Christian Peterson, Corey Konecka, Michael Hurley, Steve Forbat, all those guys, spent hours and hours and hours and hours in meetings learning a lot from them. And then I spent 3 years as head of FLGS Studio, and that was right after the Asmodee acquisition, so I learned a lot about working in a large corporation and seeing how all that stuff worked. And so I felt like just my experience gave me the confidence that I could go out there and do my own thing. I don't think there are enough board game publishing companies out there. Like the more the merrier. I think if you have got a cool idea and you want to try to make it work, then please, like there's plenty of room to come and try your hand at it. Like I was saying earlier, I think if you have an idea that speaks to you and is like clawing to get out of your brain or your heart or wherever it may reside, that you should make that thing happen. So as far as like standing up in the crowd, I mean, I don't know. Like I think like all we're trying to do is make the best thing we can make. Our first game, Earthborne Rangers, it's finally fulfilling. We started with a couple years ago. It's finally fulfilling right now. It'll be available for purchase soon. You can follow us on GameFound for our second printing right now. But I don't know. I didn't really know how it would go. Like I had no idea. I think even though I had all this experience, I was still super nervous to like put my idea out there. And I'm sure Adam knows really well what this feels like. I had no idea how it would go, and I was really, honestly, really shocked that there was so much interest from backers and from publishing partners. Like we made this game. So usually when you make games, you especially like at FLG, you're planning on printing in a bunch of languages. So part of what you do is you'll make them as friendly to that process as possible. Earthborne Rangers is not friendly to that process at all, because I didn't even imagine that anyone would be interested in publishing the game apart from me. So being contacted by a bunch of publishers from other countries who were interested in doing it, super surprise to me. So what did I do to stand out? I don't know. I feel like I definitely leveraged my experience at FLG, the time I spent on creative director on certain games, and I think that helped give me a leg up. So I can't really speak from the perspective of someone who's like an outsider coming in trying to do something. I think that would have been obviously way more difficult, and like you can see that like on Kickstarter and GameFound, like people who are just coming out of nowhere to do stuff and they can kind of struggle sometimes. So that definitely helps. But hopefully what helps us stand out is that our games are amazing. But also made sustainably, which is cool. All of our games our Earthborne Rangers is 100% FSC certified. There's no plastic of any kind, no plastic coatings. So usually paper's covered in plastic, so there's no plastic coatings whatsoever. So it's completely recyclable and compostable, which is something that most board games aren't. Most people aren't interested in recycling their board games, but I want to make something that once we're done with it, once humans are done with it, it'll disappear. So I think that maybe helps us a little bit, but other than that, I just want to make amazing games that enrich people's lives.
So asking for a friend, if you're a first edition backer of Earthborne Rangers, will there be a complimentary first edition upgrade pack with a second edition?
It's not.
Which also isn't very sustainable, I guess.
The references aren't so, they're not huge. Yeah, it's mostly typos.
That hurts me. All right, so question number 7 here. For Adam's Apple Games, you recently had a very successful crowdfunding project include on GameFound after already being successful with a previous crowdfunding project. What were some learnings from your initial crowdfunding project that you implemented into your most recent project, and what would you say are some of the benefits of using crowdfunding to publish a board game?
I'll start at the end and kind of work back to the beginning. So I think the benefits, crowdfunding is a great tool, and I just opportunity area. De-risks things financially for a creator. It allows you to even be more risky from a product design marketing standpoint, to really tackle things that probably would be really dangerous to tackle otherwise. And then you can order the right amount of quantity so you don't have to sink the ship, So that is kind of like the benefits using crowdfunding. Going back to what did I learn, what did I implement, and what was the road to get there? This was actually crowdfunding brought to like 8 for me. So it has been a long road of small stepping stones along the way. Always trying to tackle a project that had a really cool component. Not really being cohesive from theme to theme, but I do find that there is a small base of audience that will follow me along the way because they like what I'm doing. Now from the last project to this project, that's kind of an unfair question because I think our project Planet Unknown was a very successful Kickstarter project. Our follow-up to that was an expansion to it. We basically did all the things you shouldn't do for crowdfunding. So we had no stretch goals. We raised our MSRP to adjust to the kind of the inflation and the production costs that were happening right now, and logistics and all that. And we just kind of stuck our flag in the ground and said we think we made an awesome game, and we think people are going to want it anyway. And oh, by the way, it's been really hard to find it. So this was like an opportunity for people to kind of show up and get the thing that they've been wanting, they've been hearing about, and people did. And so could it have gone a lot better had we followed the norms of what people do in crowdfunding? Tons of stretch goals, really fancy minis, all this. Possibly yes, but I think we just wanted to kind of really be smart about our project, really make something we were going to be proud of, and also just like bite off a project that we thought we could deliver in time. Our previous one, Planet Unknown, was like a 2-year delivery kind of mark, and we think that we're gonna take less risk this time, make the game we want to make, do less of the stretch goal thing, and hopefully deliver it on time. So I think that was a little bit of an unfair answer, but when you make something that people are excited about, and then you make it again, they will show up if they cannot get it the first time. So
I mean, Adam, this time around, you're also not dealing with COVID and the shipping crisis. So
of course, and of course, there have been many challenges along the way, like as we know in the last couple of years. So I think crowdfunding, over the last 2-3 years has been just kind of a wild road, and anyone that has gone through and gotten out the back end of it and has stayed afloat has done a great job. So yeah.
Great, thanks Adam. All right, this is a question for everyone. So, according to various sources, I think I maybe messed up. Oh, no, maybe I didn't listen. All right, according to various sources, Gen Con, the largest board game convention in the U.S., had its largest recorded attendance. What would you say attributed to this growth in the attention to the board game hobby? We'll start with Andrew and then go down the road.
So I think I've observed this hobby just grow my entire life. So I don't think anything is happening, honestly. I just think that kind of like video games became normalized as we've gotten older. As like I'm looking at you, we're the same age, people who grew up playing video games for the first time. I think people are just growing up playing games, and there's just more people alive who are playing games, and it's just a steady growth that we really I've not seen a dip at all in the last 30 years. So I think it's just natural growth. I think.
So I really don't want to disagree with Andrew. When I first started buying, I talked to a buyer that said, I will never carry a game about quilting at my stores. And he was referring to the game Patchwork. And obviously, Patchwork is a major hit. I believe games are getting to have themes that are more appealing to more people. With Wingspan just being such an epic hit, having a game about random birds and doing bird stuff, I guess, and just how that captured so many people's imagination and excitement, and having Stonemeyer doing an excellent job with production and just the most gorgeous illustrations, it brought so many people to the hobby. Having more games that are of different topics, having games that just are more diverse in theme is what's going to continue to help grow the hobby.
Yeah, I'm also going to a little bit disagree, Andrew, sorry. But only in the sense that, and I think actually it's more of, it reinforces a little bit what you're saying, but it's, I think the biggest change has been how much generationally we had started to incorporate games at the family level. I started, when I was young, I was the one that was different in my family who wanted to start involving in board games more often. I have, again, a bunch of siblings who the youngest of my siblings is 20 years younger than I am. And so throughout our whole familial history, we have board games that become part of the family tradition. And where a decade ago I wouldn't have considered anyone in my mom, my stepmom, my dad, would never have engaged with games. Now, that is a regular Saturday evening for them. That is my sister, who was never into gaming, now regularly attends Gen Con every year. Even when we can't hang out, she will go by herself. So I think that the fact that as gamers have matured, the next generation that comes after us and the generation after that has just started to pick it up, and it's normalized. So I guess I'm kind of disagreeing with you. Yeah, no, you're right. But yeah, that's, yeah.
Without just repeating the same, because I do agree with all that's been said, but the two things I'd add maybe is cell phones just have created a place, a high level of connectivity, right? And so, but when we look at phone screens a lot, so I think board gaming benefits from people not wanting to look at a phone screen and enjoying that real person-to-person interaction. But Gen Con is a different beast, and I think the board game industry is turning into a little bit of the entertainment industry, where like a hype cycle, the tallest peak gets taller kind of thing. And so Gen Con happens to be the biggest convention in the US. The larger the board game industry gets, I think the more hype is built up around that kind of thing. So, and I think just conventions in general too, we've seen just a wild convention growth across the US, across the world really in general. So, yeah, just a couple points to add.
Yeah. I think mostly it'd just be painting with the broader stroke of just accessibility and inclusivity, in the sense of accessibility, you're hitting, like Jim and Andrew said, like people of all different ages. It's more of a natural thing, and inclusivity of just broader spectrums of just like topics and subjects, and that means you get people from different demographics that weren't being targeted as much previously. It means that natural growth of just the industry as a whole.
You have a comment? Yes, go ahead.
COVID happened. We've seen year-over-year growth in the industry for the last 10, 15 years, but 2020 and 2021 saw a spike in board game interest that can't be attributed to anything other than people being trapped together and going, what entertainment options do I have where I can actually interact with my family? And now that we are able to share space again, people are going, oh, I can have that interaction with people who are not my family. Board games are really cool and a really cool way to interact, and so it is building upon the things that Andrew and Jim are saying, but I think this question can be directly attributed to people coming out of COVID and going, oh wow, this is a way I want to interact with humans in a way that is kind of unique in terms of entertainment.
Great, thank you. And that was Ian from PSI, which is a board game distribution company.
Yeah.
And almost been on panel, but it was a last minute decision tonight.
I told Jim I'll go on nothing but hardball questions.
All right. Well, thanks guys for those answers. Next now is the question for Games by James for Jacob. So first, whose James? Games by James locations And then after that, Games by James locations are exclusively, I believe, located in shopping centers. Is the idea of a standalone location ever been floated around? What was the reason for this decision? And then how does it get decided which games get shelf space in a Games by James store? Does each store have a unique selection or similar selection as all the other stores? So, break it up.
So, the company started 1979, 1980. I should have double checked this, but sometime way before I was with Games by James for sure. And the company started off as a way to see if the son of a furniture company, Gabrick's Furniture, his son wanted to take over the furniture company. And his dad told him, I don't know if you can handle a retail company. So Games by James was basically the test to see if you could run a successful company. And then over the years, that got franchised out, and there's a very long history that we do not have enough time for. But basically, James is James Gabrick of Gabrick Furniture. Which is in Edina, and it sounds like you're familiar with. Other Minnesotans have been familiar with him as well too. I am not a Minnesotan, so it is. So we are in shopping malls only. The biggest, so the decision of where we have our stores comes down to like who are our customers. And what we, when I imagine that our customers are anyone that plays games, and having our stores in shopping malls, it makes it really convenient for families. So you can come into Games by James, you can like pick up RPGs for your cousin, you can pick up Cards Against Humanity for those people that like their dirty games. You can pick up Mahjong, you can pick up anything. We are your one-stop game shop for everyone in the family. So like by only having our stores in shopping malls, we know that target of who's shopping at shopping malls. If we start doing standalone stores, it's a lot more work for me. Because those stores are going to have a different target. The Source is an amazing store. Their target market has a lot of overlap, but a lot of differences from our stores. All of the stores in the Twin Cities are really, really amazing, and all of them have their own little niche of these are the people that are shopping there. And the more we can try to stick to what we do best with serving those customers, the easier it will be. As far as, there are a lot of questions for me. So I guess I am the decider of what we carry in our stores. With that being said, I do have a team of buyers. Some of them are managers, some of them are seasoned employees, and these buyers might work with specific vendors. We have one buyer that works specifically with Games Workshop. We have one that works, orders just our books. But we try to have our stores be uniform. So if you go to our St. Cloud store or our Mall of America store, you know what to expect. And we can always special order products, but we kind of want our stores to be what you expect. And was there another question on here?
Does each store have a unique?
So for the most part, we are trying to keep our selections the same. So a few years back, we did acquire Air Traffic Kites and Games, which makes it much more complicated for me. I didn't really wish to explain, but as Air Traffic is outdoor kids, whereas we're indoor kids. And so we do have the Air Traffic at the Mall of America, which has all of these kedamas and kites and all of that nonsense. So we do have a few stores that are a combination of Air Traffic and Games by James. So the Roseville, Minnetonka, and Southdale locations have the full library, whereas our air traffic store at the Mall of America is only those outdoor items, and with some overlap with games. And then we have our Games by James store at the Mall of America that just has the games. And then St. Cloud and Eau Claire just have the games as well too. So there is a system. For the most part, the stores have the same games.
Great, thanks, Jacob. All right, so the next question is for Dan for the Source Comics and Games. The Source has a huge selection of comic books in addition to board games. Do you feel there's strong synergy between these two hobbies? The store has a pretty large space for playing games at the back. What's the store's current philosophy on how to manage that space? Has it been discussed if there should be a charge to play board games in that area?
Sweet. So let's start there with the question about comics. There's a ton of synergy. There's actually was it Mind Management was a big one that was a comic book that then became a board game. We got asked about it a ton. Sometimes it'll be like Kickstarter exclusive things, so sometimes it's not as friendly to retail as far as combining the two. But I mean, especially with like all the licensed games like Star Wars stuff, like Marvel stuff, like ties in very, very directly. I get a lot of people buying like Marvel board games just for the miniatures and just because they're like, oh, I like this particular character and I have all of Gambit's books. I want this for the Gambit thing. And then they start playing games and they're like, oh, I want all of the games with this character now. Or all of the games by this publisher now. So there definitely is a strong tie in there. As far as the space in the game room, it's a little bit just pulling my hair out sometimes. Because we've especially had a huge uptick in organized play. We do have a lot of organized play, so certain nights of the week we don't have as much free space. Like Tuesdays, just off the top of my head, we have a Tuesday Magic Draft, we have One Piece card game, we have Marvel Champions every other week, we have Netrunner, and then we have Middle Earth Strategy Battle Team all in one night. So we have a lot of stuff all at once. But then there's some days like Saturdays, we tend to not have a ton of organized play just so then that weekend day is a little bit more free for people to come and go. And then it's for special events, so like Magic releases or big tournaments, or we also have Pokemon in the morning, or things like Disney just launched Lorcon, the Disney branded card game, so that's been a huge thing. And then also like things like Free RPG Day take on that space. As far as coordinating that, we have two people that kind of coordinate most of that, which is Gates and myself. Because I do a lot of the miniatures stuff, I do a lot of the stuff with a bunch of the card games, running both the miniatures departments, the magic department. And I also just have a passion for a lot of just like organized play stuff and event coordination. So we also do stuff like inviting independent creators during sale days and stuff. It's a day, like Free Comic Book Day, we have upwards of 3,000 to 4,000 to 5,000 people coming through in one day. We don't charge for that space or anything, we don't charge for a table, but we have a ton of local creators that reach out, and we've kind of created like a habit of just having creators in the back room and advertising their stuff and selling their stuff. Because we know it'll put them in front of a larger crowd than they would just with like an internet presence necessarily, or like setting up a stand at a big show where there might be just a wall of booths. And so that's something I'm super excited about that I get to do. As far as charging for space, like we charge for organized play, there's always that conversation of do you start charging for your space, because there is always the fight. We have a relatively small parking lot also shared with the Eric's Bike Shop next to us, and then street parking, where parking is kind of one of the biggest limiters to a store, to a standalone game store. Parking is always going to be one of your biggest fights, because that is a direct limit to how many people come in your store and shop your products. So it's something that has been discussed, but not something, as much as we can avoid it, we kind of don't have an interest in charging for the space as much as we can, because we feel like that's part of what builds your community, is having that free play space. But then we do have to like kind of put a plug on certain things, like on nights where we have organized play, stuff like that, just to kind of, it doesn't turn into people fighting for space or just I was here first. It's just having some organized play, and then having the space when we can and having it free and advertised as when things are open a little bit more, just by having our game room calendar and trying to keep on top of that as much as possible.
Great, thanks, Dan. So next question, I know now we are technically at 6, which I don't think there was a panel scheduled for. Yeah, not till 7 for the next panel. So we'll continue here with another question once I get this working here. This one's for everyone. So what is one thing besides simply playing more board games you would like to see people to do more of that would greatly benefit the board gaming hobby and industry? And I'll start with Andrew here and we'll go down the road.
That sounds really hard. I'm interested to see how many people will disagree with what I say. Man, I don't know. Like, I feel like you took the one thing out of there that really is the most important thing, honestly. Because like, if no one's playing the games, then what are we even doing? Like, we're just making collectibles at that point. So I mean, I do feel like that the one thing that like the general person could do is actually share their love of the hobby. I guess that's not technically playing. But then you want to play with the people to show them why it's so awesome. Yeah, I think that's the thing that's going to help us continue to grow, as you guys discussed, and I think helping to grow that awareness of like the diversity of options that are there. Because even now, like people there's a big awareness because like Tom and like Wingspan and stuff, but there's a lot of cool stuff out there that people just have no idea. So sharing, I think, sharing your love.
I do not disagree with that. The biggest problem in the industry, I feel like, is gatekeeping. Where someone will say, my favorite game is Monopoly, some people might have a reaction that is not inviting to the hobby when they hear that. So if someone is telling you their favorite game is Clue or Monopoly or Scrabble or something that you don't find exciting, tell them that's awesome. I love games too. If you liked Monopoly, have you considered trying Machi Koro or Catan or something else? So there's gatekeeping when talking to people of all games. There's also just gatekeeping when it comes to people maybe bragging about their knowledge of games more than they should. I don't know why this happens. If I were to brag about my knowledge of games in front of my wife, she would not have any of it and mock me incredibly for it. But even if you've only been playing games for a few years, you should feel welcome in this hobby. It is super exciting to play games with people that are just new to the hobby. I kind of can live vicariously through their new excitement of playing games when I get to show someone the Mind for the first time or the game for the first time or some of these just amazing novelty games. So I would say gatekeeping is the biggest problem in the industry right now, and that restricts it from expanding further.
Agreed. I think one of the biggest things that we can do to help grow the industry, right, which is ultimately where I think we're talking about in this question, is finding the communities and the spaces that don't normally have an opportunity to engage with them. Something that was really important to me before I came to FFG, but I was still working flight crew for FFG, which was kind of like their contracted go around, and usually you see them at conventions, but in the Chicagoland area, which is where I'm from, we did a lot of work in public libraries in the city, or other community center places where people don't have maybe the ability monetarily to engage with the hobby and think that that's a way to gatekeep people out of it. And finding those places where we can share. So again, back to sharing and a little bit of playing, but really about, focusing on the idea that this hobby really is for everybody. And we should try to make sure that we make welcome spaces and find the places in which we can benefit the most as a hobby in getting people in that maybe don't have the opportunity to do so regularly.
I like that a lot. I was going to add a lot of good answers. I was going to add healthy gaming habits would be a good one that I would see more of and see more just people talking about. So I've seen a lot of like the whole shelf of shame conversation come up a lot lately, and I think it's everyone has it. It's like don't shame people for it, but continue to talk about like let's unwrap that game, play it, and just come up with a healthy habit for that. Or if it doesn't belong there, like it's okay to resell it, or it's okay to put it in my little library or whatever it is. Like do the stuff you gotta do, but like make healthy gaming habits and just keep your keep the hobby fun and positive versus like kind of a dirty little side of it where like it turns into a problem. So
It's hard.
In my head, I have kind of two things. One's a little bit more narrow, which is miniature painting most of the time. Like our Monday paint night at the store is upwards of like 20 to 30 people now, which is insane. And the number of people that have come in, like the gentleman that runs our Hero Click on Thursday night, who's been in painting his Rising Sunset that he's giving to his sister. And it's board game minis that he's never played a board game painting the minis, and that kind of piques his interest too. The more he's looking through the art book for reference, and the more he's painting these minis, he's like, what does the game play like? Like I'm a sucker for, I have so many games I've bought that I've bought purely for the minis, and I'm like, maybe I should play the game by but so like that's one aspect that can really bump it up. Like I have a friend that's a Twitch streamer that she does a lot of prototype painting for board games, and so like that also helps people get interested in that because she'll be painting stuff and it'll be like, here's the demo copy, or here's like the copy that the publisher shows, and then suddenly people are like, oh, I want to make it look like that. And there are more and more tools nowadays that make that more accessible, which is awesome. Like there's the contrast paints games workshop and stuff like that, where it's kind of more like painting with watercolors, where it'll pull deeper in the recesses and give you color gradients very easily. That then makes that range of people that can do that more accessible. I've had a lot of people with like disabilities and stuff like that that have been like never been into painting things, and now I can. And that's people to share your passions with and have community with, which is awesome. And then the other thing I had was jumping out of your comfort zone. If you're playing in a public space, like being inviting. Like I love quick to play games, so it's a perfect chance for that, where it's like you're sitting there playing this game that catches someone's attention. Like I was just playing at Battleground Cafe the other day for someone's birthday. We were playing, CMI picked up after playing with friends at Chinatown. That we had like 2 or 3 people come over and be like, oh, what are you playing? That looks really neat. And it was fun to just be able to be like, oh, do you want to try it? Papagino, it's a poetic game that my friend Olivia showed me at Gen Con, and it's basically super simple trick taking game with these cute colors for cards, and the cards are just really adorable. And so like, I was just like, I want to put this together, and I bought 8 copies of it. I found it on sale, and so I brought in some to the store, and then I have it give it to friends. So yeah, and that just means more people I can have.
Got me in.
So I think a lot of people get interested in things, like anything, whether it's like, oh, I like these movies, and there's comics about them, like I want to check out those comics. People get interested in things by theme a lot. And I think recognizing opportunities to maybe share a specific board game or a collection of board games with a person that you know is interested in the theme can be a really great entry point, where it's like, I've had conversations where I'm talking to someone and they're like, oh, the Red Wall books, do you remember those? And it's like, yeah, those are great. Have you ever played the board game Everdeck? And people will be like, oh, no. And then like you talk about the theme over that, and they're like, oh, that sounds really cool. And like, maybe they'll play the board game, maybe they won't. But before that conversation, it's like, they didn't even know it existed in any way. And like, not the back person who's always like, oh, we're talking about a thing, let me tell you about a board game. But, you know, just recognizing opportunities to make people learn, oh, you like Star Wars? Are you interested in a game where you can fly X-Wings around the table and have dogfights?
No, yeah. Actually, I had a lot of comments made after all those comments. First, Dan's comment about someone buying games just for the minis. I had that experience the other week when I was selling a board game in a board game market on this game called Skull Tales, which is like a dungeon crawler pirate theme game. I was like, oh, this would be great for my pirate D&D campaign. Like, how much is it? Like, I was cringe like selling it for $10 billion. He's just gonna get it for the minis. And then Adam, your comment, this is almost turning into like a therapy section for us that have that compulsive buying, self-diagnosed, obsessive compulsive. Gosh, you know what I'm saying? Can't stop from buying board games. Is what I'm trying to say. Compulsive buying disorder. That's what I wanted to say. And then your comment, Ian, with theme like Apex Legends did a Kickstarter a few months ago, and I immediately told my friends that I played Apex Legends with, because they don't play board games. They're like, oh my god, there's this board game, you guys will play with me because it's Apex. And anyway, so I think that was spot on too in terms of having themes, having themes help bring people into the hobby. So with that said, we'll go on to the next question here, which is another one for everyone. What excites you the most about the future of the state of the board game industry? Something like, wow, I never thought I'd see the day, you know, in regards to something that you've noticed about the board game industry. And we'll start this time with Dan Walk. Come on, Rose.
Now we got to think. Trying to think. I think just the breadth of topics and stuff for games, just like having stuff based purely on art, just how creative people get with just game design and just doing very out-of-the-box things. Like stuff like that Raft and Skycards, I would never imagine that as a game. Just how the gameplay flows and how it kind of walks you through the different decision-making points. Not something I would have thought of or ever imagined. And I came from mostly miniatures games to start, and so getting the board games like I love quick play games, but then
Where is she? And Tom said, well, she wouldn't be here.
things like more in-depth games where like I might get my
Plastic baby or something, so
and
just
then just seeing how wide of a variety of different things that they can touch on like that. Quality of miniatures too is really great, and it's always improving, which is really cool to see, especially with 3D printing capabilities. We have some people come in and do demos with their name, I'm blanking on the name of it now, but they have 3D printed minis for all of the monsters and characters, and just seeing the quality of it, and just knowing that when it comes to development, because there is going to be a very similar quality with the final product is really cool to see. And then just accessibility to creating those games means, again, more diverse group of people and more creative people getting a chance to do that.
Is that Shadow World here? Not my brilliant video.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of tag along here with the 3D printing. Just the cost of these 3D printers are like they keep going down, and the quality and the speed keeps going up, and the amount of cool stuff people are able to crank out at their own houses is pretty phenomenal. I mean, we're already starting to see like these systems where kind of get the rules shift or like the card shift, and then you can turn the rest. And so there's like different distribution models potentially forming in the board game industry based just solely on developing all the capacity to
Yeah, for me, I think it's, and it's not, I think we're in this part of the future here with this, but I think it's also got plenty of room to grow, which is crowdfunding and the opportunities that it brings to creators who normally wouldn't have an avenue to bring their passion to life. I think that is still, even though it's something that's been happening for a while now, I think just again from other panelists on this at this table, it has an opportunity to bring things that maybe would never see the light of day in a published company, right? And that excites me the most because it means that we're seeing, instead of it kind of being a gatekeeping experience where it was only within these very specific channels of publishers who have their favorite designers and only so much bandwidth to be able to actually produce content. Now there's an avenue for literally anyone with an incredible idea and a passion for it to bring that experience to life. That to me is really truly the future of our industry more than anything else.
It's a lot easier going second than going fourth. I feel like a lot of the good answers. Oh, is that? Can everyone hear me? It's off. Oh, but they can hear me.
Hello. So I am most excited about indie publishers. I look at the last 5 years, the most amazing passion projects, the most games we've heard have been a lot of indie publishers, like in the Twin Cities, Leader Games with Root. Just the amount of detail, passion that Host Studio put into it. Earthborne Rangers is just such an amazing, unique game that is good for the environment, or more importantly, not bad for the environment. If you have not checked it out, it is really amazing, and I went to college with the illustrator, so that is really, really amazing as well. Chip Fury Games in the Twin Cities here is just doing just such amazing stuff. So, like what has been said, is it is more accessible for publishers to get started. They might not succeed, but it is more accessible for them to get started and to take chances with Kickstarter, with 3D printers. And with that, we're going to see more passion projects, we're going to see more art type projects, we're going to see more projects that really are unique and different than anything we've never seen before.
All the best answers have been taken. Yeah, I was gonna say something about independent creators as well, but now that you guys have covered it so perfectly, I'll go back to what I was originally thinking. Is that I don't really, apart from these kind of conversations, like I don't really think about the state of the board game industry at all. Like the only thing that has been on my mind as someone who's running his own company for the first time is like trying to fulfill a crowdfunding campaign. Been working on this game, Earthborne Raiders, for 3 years. We're still working on it. We're working on expansions. We have more to do. And really, all I think about is I just want to be able to keep doing it. Like I don't want it to stop. I want to be able to continue to wake up every day and be creative, work with amazing people, and then also work with our amazing fans and the people who supported us to help continue to bring them joy and to help enrich their lives. Like, I just want more of that. So I think, that's all I'm thinking about. For the future of the industry is like, I just want to be here continuing to do the same thing for years and years to come. Hopefully I'll be able to do that.
Thank you, Andrew. This is my dog Verde, by the way. He was getting a lot of antsy back there, so I decided to hold.
So this one's for everyone. What advice? This is self-serving, by the way, but also there could be other people that are curious out there. What advice would you give to board game content creators?
Wow. I like a lot of board game content out there. I feel like I give terrible advice. I like to have lots of long form, like real play videos. I feel like more of that, please, from anyone. That's what I think the most. But I have no advice to give. I don't know what I'm doing.
So the board game industry is incredibly small, and so a lot of content creators will eventually get to know a lot of the publishers, a lot of the designers. So I would encourage content creators just to be fully transparent. That yes, this is someone I know, or yes, I got a free copy of this game. It's not any conspiracy. It's not no shenanigans are happening, but a lot of times viewers will get upset if they believe that there's a bias or something. So being as transparent as possible. For myself, I want content creators to be honest. They don't need to like every game that is popular. So if they don't like a popular game, like that's perfectly alright. I want content creators to be positive that if they don't like that game, that's perfectly fine, but say who the game is for. And I want no more clickbait titles on games. Like, top 10 reasons why this game ruined my life. I do not want to see that on my YouTube feed anymore, and it just keeps happening.
I also don't have a ton of great advice for content creators as someone who's never attempted to do that. I think that the only thing that comes to mind when I think about this question is the idea that if you're a content creator in this industry, follow what you're passionate about. Don't do the things that, don't try to find like a specific segment that doesn't really speak to the way you think about games. Focus on what it is that you enjoy talking about and the types of things you enjoy doing, and everything else will come from that, right? It's not, it's simple, it's small, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, just like from from so many parts of this industry, the most success or the most, regardless of whether or not you have one follower, if you are super passionate or having fun with what you're doing, that's all that actually matters, right? And if you are that passionate and you are doing the thing that you enjoy, then the people who follow you will find that passion as well and will join you in that journey.
This is a really tough one for me. We're trying the content creation out a couple times and continuously failing, but mostly for lack of consistency. So I think obviously consistency is the thing that's always going to make you successful over time. No matter if your content is good or bad or mediocre, I think consistency will win. But don't fall into the what everyone else is doing. Don't just review it. Don't be afraid to brainstorm, don't be afraid to try new stuff. Just because it didn't work the first time doesn't mean it won't work the 20th time. So, and I know that's tough to hear because who wants to keep making something that doesn't get viewed 20 times? But sometimes it takes a while to build that steam.
Just trying to think of anything else to add. I think that one big thing would be community, finding a community that you're passionate about and engaging with it, not just kind of existing in your own bubble and doing stuff like going to your FLGS or going to events. There's tons of rad events out there, and especially we get very close in the Twin Cities too. Our store does an event with Silver Lake Park up by us where it's called Ecology, and they do basically a bunch of different stations that are all about learning about the park system and stuff like that. And they pick a theme every year, and it's I have a friend who's a YouTuber that the one year he went out and did a station where he was teaching people how to put facing stuff on their games and using natural resources for that, like gravel and stuff like that. But it's such a fun thing where it's like a community that you might not already be engaged with, but will be passionate about the same things. And yeah, just finding different communities and kind of getting out of your comfort zone a little bit too sometimes, but finding communities that have some interest or maybe interested in that kind of helps you build a following, and does it in a very grassroots way.
Great, thanks guys. All right, so next question here. Is everyone still okay? Hopefully, okay. So we'll start with Dan on this one then. With the advent of AI, what do you think that means for the board gaming industry, if anything?
I know for me, a big thing with board games that catches my attention is art. So the downside to AI is I hope that a lot of people in the community will be honest about where their art is coming from. Because especially as someone that likes to work with local creators and support local creators, watching them and seem to have their own artwork and effort being kind of ripped off and used by someone else and someone monetizing without any credit or anything whatsoever, without any consent from those artists. I'm not a big fan of it. But also I think kind of similar to what Jacob said with transparency for community and like getting working free, stuff like that, transparency with your art. You're utilizing those tools, even if it's things like refining your art using like an AI tool, being honest about that. And yeah, basically just like anything from school, just sourcing your work and stuff like that, giving credit where credit's due. I used to work with a lot of musicians. I did tour management and stuff like that. And there were times where it's like, oh, if you ever work that's influenced by this, so you take influence on this thing or sample this thing, like making sure you do that stuff properly and give credit where credit's due. Because if you do have any modicum of success, like that suddenly becomes very much under scrutiny. And it's better to just be above board with that stuff ahead of time before otherwise, like, yeah, if you do hit that drag pot and get success, then suddenly you're under scrutiny and then it just blows up in your face. Whereas if you're above board about it the whole time, you don't have to worry about the backlash.
So this is a pretty scary question for me. I think one for a lot of people up here maybe, but I think I can totally imagine a world where you plug in this rule set, you say create a game, this rules with this art, and it just doesn't, and the games aren't ready to play. I'm just like, it potentially just leapfrogs, everything that like a creator could have done. I think it's a while to get there, but that is what I think the AI potentially means for the board gaming industry. Is that everyone can be a creator, which is amazing, but at the same time, having that publisher role or that designer role, that might look a lot different in the future.
So I think from my angle, my perspective here, I think the biggest thing that we need to do as an industry, honestly, is find ways to protect the creators of all of the content that is used, right? Like, we obviously employ thousands of artists from across the world at FFG, and making sure that that art is used in the way that it was intended, and that it is protected, and that it is, and that's from an art angle, but I think to, Adam's point, we have to protect our creators in every way we can with this, because it's coming, right? Like AI it's not going away, it's something that's all of a sudden going to disappear. So we need to make sure that we're thinking about now how we want to engage with this technology in a way that's healthy and supportive of the creators that make up this industry.
Or right now, I do not believe our customers want games with AI art. I did have a local publisher present a design he made, and I told him I would not feel comfortable carrying it with the AI art included. Until the general public is more comfortable with AI art, it's easy for me to pass on those items. I also believe Wizards of the Coast had an issue with you might know more about this than I do. One of their artists who does a lot of his own art. He's an artist, but he used AI art based on his art to make a new card for Magic the Gathering. And I believe a lot of people are very upset with this artist and Wizards of the Coast right now. So as it stands right now, if you are designing a game, if you're doing anything, please hire a wonderful illustrator and graphic designer. Definitely hire a graphic designer. There's a lot of games need more graphic designers than I'm not picking at you, but it's common for me to see new games that just need a graphic designer. Yes.
Clearly we've solved the problem. I feel like AI is antithetical to everything that we do. Like I believe that people who enjoy playing tabletop games do so because of the human effort involved in creating them. I think, yeah, you could put some variables into an AI thing and it could poop out a game, and you could play it and be, I don't know, fine. And I guess I won't know until I try it myself, but I feel like I'd be able to tell the difference. But for my part, even if it's, AI like took over, you say it's coming, I don't know, maybe, well, why not just stop? But I feel like creating games is something that brings me so much joy. If everyone was just playing games made by robots, I would still be making games. I made games before I worked at a games company, I made games when I was a kid. Like, it's just something that I've always loved to do. Love to make games, love to build worlds, love to do artwork, collaborate with people who do the same. There's just nothing like it. So let the robots come. We'll still make games.
To be clear, I don't want the robots to come. I want to make that very clear.
Maybe benign robots at least. All right, so final question here, and I know we guys have a lot of stuff that you could talk about, so let's try to keep it brief, which you guys have been doing so far, which has been fantastic. But what would you like to plug in general, just plugging company, or specifically you would like to plug, and we'll start with Andrew here.
I have only one thing to plug, and that is Earthborne Rangers. As I mentioned earlier, we're currently fulfilling our first Kickstarter. Our preview page, GameFound, went up a couple days ago. We're part of the Summer Games Feast, so you can follow our project there for the second printing, and we have some expansions that we've been working on. Also, the game will be available. Hopefully, it's available in retail in Europe now, and will be available soon for purchase in the States. As soon as it lands, then we'll know when actually it's for sale. If you like, it's not on the boat yet. It's on the container level. Yeah, don't worry, those graphics were never true. If you'd like to follow along with what we're doing, we have a YouTube channel. We have a bi-weekly podcast that we do. You can find us at Earthborne Games at YouTube. You can also follow us on Twitter or X, Facebook, etc. And we have a fan Discord too. All those links are on that GameTime page and on our website, earthbornegames.com. If you want to check it out. Thank you.
Shop at Games by James. And the source as well too. And really all of our local game stores. We do have a lot of just really wonderful stores in the cities. I'm trying to imagine who would sit through a board game discussion panel. So I'm guessing there's a lot of you out there that want to design your own games. If you ever want to reach out to me, my email is jacob@gamesbyjames.com. Send me an email, say you saw me at 2DCon, and I can take a look at, I can tell you what I'm looking for as a retailer in your game design. So it's jacob@gamesbyjames.com, and I am, if you do have a game you're really excited about, you want to get published, you want any feedback on, of course there's a lot of people in the industry that can help, and I can tell you what I'm looking for my store shelves.
And he's extremely helpful. And he would give us a lot of encouragement.
That's awesome. Honestly, for me up here, Earthborne Rangers, Games by James, Adam's Apple Games, and The Source. I don't need to plug anything from my company. I want you all to support. And I'm sorry, you were right. I'm talking cardboard. Oh my gosh, I'm very sorry. Yes, and thank you for hosting this and putting this panel together. That's amazing. But yeah, no, I am humbled to be up here amongst all of you. So thank you for inviting me.
I don't need a plug, but just like Jacob said, Adam at Adam's Apple Games, if you ever want to ask questions about game design, small indie publishing, that stuff.
My big thing I would say again, I keep coming back to it, but community, get engaged in your local community, especially every open space based out here. There is so much here. We get so spoiled here on so many levels. Card games, minis games, board games, video games, everything. I remember seeing a map at one point of the cities, and there was something like almost 30 plus game stores in the cities alone. And as far as community goes, like most of those stores are friendly. I send people to, I literally earlier today was sending some of the games by James for something that we were out of. And vice versa, like we have people that come in all the time saying they were sent to us by X other game store. And I send people to other game stores all the time. It's nice. We get very spoiled here, and everyone kind of has something different to offer and runs different events. And it's a little bit too much for any one store to handle. So everyone gets everything here because there's so much of it. And just support locals, support your community. And like if you have a passion project that you're wanting to do, there's a lot of creatives that are looking to help others in the gaming community. I know Travis from Tower Games and I were talking the other day at the kickball company he's working for now, but like he helps people all the time with developing their games. He helped one of our local comics creators with workshopping his game for his Castronauts all ages friendly book. Left Just Fine, thank you. And literally brought one of their games with me too, ironically. I'm so terrible at remembering names of things sometimes. But yeah, like just support your community, engage in your community, and basically it just means you get, I'm a very sociable person, so it just means more friends and more people you get to enjoy the company of, and more people you get to share stories with and play games with and have fun with. So, yeah.
And I will also do a plug for everyone here on the panel. You know, I've been to the source tons of times, spent way too much time looking through the shelves and wishing to have that time back, but it is what it is. And the Great Games by James, I started going to, I think the first one, I went to Mall America many years ago, and then Ridgedale Mall, I think, has one, and I go there a lot, and then of course, Adam's Apple Games, fantastic publisher, Earthborne Games. We know he'll be a fantastic publisher given his track record, because again, technically isn't retail, but I'm backer. And then of course, Fantasy Flight, everyone that plays games knows about them, but if not, definitely check out their products. So with that said, thanks so much for everyone's time and attention for this panel. I really appreciate everyone out there. This is the first, I forgot to say this at the start. I was going to say, I apologize for any technical issues or anything that happens during this panel, because this is the first time I've done anything like this, and I think it went okay. So, but I guess I'm saying that now at the end. If anything had happened that was really catastrophic, I would appreciate the patience with that. So with that said, again, I'm Nick from Talking Cardboard. Our QR code is on that banner if you want to see the different areas that we make content. And I'm going to do what I think a good content creator should be doing, is taking a quick video of the audience here, so if everyone can look excited.
Ray's excited.
There we go. All right. All right, so thanks again for everyone. Enjoy the rest of the convention, and I hope you had a good time. Oh, we have one.
Can you put that GoFundMe QR back up on?
Oh yeah, thanks Ian. So for anyone who's interested, here is once again the QR code for the store in Lahaina that unfortunately burned down, Game Odyssey. So I'll leave that up here for the campaign. Thanks guys.